today we're in like a BMW E46 like 3 Series, so like 98 probably to 2005 we're going to have this model head unit. There's a few variations. If your dash kind of looks like this with the AC vents here, a piece of trim kit here that goes along. Now like this AC panel can actually be up here on some models, and you have a single DIN model. So there's a few different variations. This is like this sort of like the big model, the big screen model, but it can range from like a single DIN. All you're looking for is if your dash is the same as this. So have a look at your aircon vents. Do you have this trim bit like this? And down here you'll actually have like a storage like pocket, and like sometimes the like AC's up here, or it could be like a manual AC. But if you're unsure, so send us a picture and we'll have a look at it. What we're doing today is we're just going to replace this unit with one of ours. Not too much going on with these units. The car's a bit older. Obviously they've got like an Alpine unit by standard in here, which is pretty good when they have that sort of stuff going on. Like BMW always do a good job with their actual sound systems, just that these become out of date. We've got like steering wheel controls, and obviously on here you go home. There is a bit going on here, but there isn't too much any menus or anything you really need. Yeah, for its time it would have been advanced, but now it's obviously out of date. There's no sort of iDrive or stuff on these models yet, so there isn't anything in here that's too, seeing how you scroll down, can't even work it out. There isn't anything in here that's too techy or that we have to keep working for the old car. There's still no settings in here that actually talk to the car, so it is basically just a radio, and we'll go in and put the new one in now. So first up, we're going to come in here, we're going to take this piece of trim off here, and then we're going to take this piece off. So in your kit you get some trim removal tools. These dashes feel okay. Europeans are pretty good, because obviously you just want to be a bit gentle on your stuff, because the cars are older. See, and it is plastic trim, so let's get the trim tool, go around, give it a few little jiggles like this. Now just take your time. You just want to treat all this stuff a bit gently. Cars are older, and you can see it will come off like that eventually. And that other piece almost fell off there. So just what you want to make sure is you can see these are the clips, and they actually go into these steel rods here. One came out, so I'll pull that off before I put it back in, and I'll stick it back. Just keep an eye on that. But that is so basically how it comes out. And this piece here basically pulled off when we did it. So again, that piece was in like that. One of these orange pieces sort of came off, so put that one back in before you put it in, and off we go. Now there's 4 Phillips screws that I've just taken out. 1, 2, 3, 4 on this model, and then get your fingers in behind here and just start to wiggle this a bit. You'll see obviously this here, once you kind of want the aircon to come out first, but it is quite stuck, so we'll give this a wiggle and we'll just see how we go with pulling it out. So they're wiggling out like this a bit. It gave me enough to get my hands in the top here, and I could pull out this. Now this, you should have enough just to sit up here like that, and then you've got your big whole unit here that'll just pull out like so. And then you can see actually this here is an aftermarket unit already, which is interesting, and I've tapped into here. I actually thought there was a factory unit, so there is a unit that does look like this big touchscreen from factory, but this is actually an aftermarket. So we'll go through and put this one in, put our new one. Yeah, so this is an aftermarket unit, and this is kind of what we try to avoid doing with our kits. So they've chopped off the factory plug, and they've hooked these into power. There's a couple plugs that would have been from the back of the old radio that they haven't been able to match up. So you will be pulling plugs out of an old radio, and our harness will match them. Now for us here, we've got to use these, and if you are using these, it isn't too complex. So we'll have to have a look what they've done here, but they have got pre-outs for a sub and front and rear speakers, so we'll run like those again. I'll have to have a look what this setup is. They might have put some aftermarket speaker pack in. We'll have a look. But if you are left with something like this, it isn't too complex. We've got a yellow, which is going to be constant power, black, which is going to be ground, red's going to be like ACC power, pink would normally be illumination for like the lights, grey is going back into the CAN bus box there, and blue will be remote for the amp or antenna amp, and that's about it. So I will be able to hook ours up here. You can see this old when they chopped all like these, because these were the speaker wires, and they're using the pre-outs, and they had some extra things here which they weren't using because they didn't have a reverse cam or anything hooked up. So hopefully you won't have to deal with this. You'll just be putting the plugs in, and then you'll go to the next step. So we'll just go through and like cover what you're going to get in our whole kit here. So looks like first up you're going to get the head unit. Has like the fascia look around it. HD screen, obviously all the specs. We call that our main 20 pin plug, auxiliary plugs, GPS. It's a 4G FM AM antenna. Got the sort of fascia built in, so that will obviously clip in and look like factory. You get our adapter harness kit here. So it normally would just be plugging into here and we'll be good to go. Or if you have a different model, you could be plugged into this. So we include 2 adapters in the kit, depending on what the model your car has. But either or, you're going to plug one of these into the car side. Now if you do end up using like this one, you have to pull the CAN bus box off it, unplug that, and plug it into here. Otherwise it will not be like working. So you just unplug and plug it in. So that's all fairly straightforward. CAN bus adapter kit. In this case we will have to sort of do something because it's already been chopped in the car. The instruction manual for like our M series head unit. This is a 1080p reverse camera. Get the RCA leads, some screws to screw the camera in, which is our 1080p colour camera. Trim removal tools. USB flash drive for updating the head unit. Like an SPL connector and some like Scotch connectors can just help when you're installing the reverse camera. Like an installation assistant. Like an OBD2 scan tool, so this can talk to the head unit if your car is compatible with OBD2, like this one should be. And then we have all our auxiliary wires that come in a big bag here that can look a bit confusing, but I'll explain them to you. There'll be like an FM or AM adapter if we have to adapter, or a small to big adapter. That's just to keep your FM or AM working. 4G antenna, this will just like stick up under the dash. A GPS antenna, again the same thing, that'll stick under the dash. SIM card slot if you want to give the head unit its own SIM card. Our third USB point, obviously that goes into auxiliaries. Majority of these will just be like run to the glove box, or if you're running our TPMS or our dash cam, we'll be plugging them in. Auxiliary in, majority of customers aren't going to be like using this, but it is just your auxiliary in. Our reverse camera and our front camera or second camera input. Antenna wire. Now if you're not running like the pre-outs, if you haven't got like an aftermarket like amp or something, you don't have to like run these, then you just plug in this one. If you are running that, then you plug in like this instead, and this also has the antenna on it. And then there's 2 extra USBs and external mic. Sometimes the kits will have external mics in them, and like sometimes they won't. It does just depend on what we had at the moment. So it could be in, it could not be in. If it is in, you can test with it and without it before you do the install, and you can see what works. So that's everything in the kit there. So normally your next step would be like grab the cable that matches your car side plug. Plug that in, make sure you have the CAN bus on, plug this one into the back of our head unit, and then turn it on, make sure it all powers up and you have sound and steering wheel controls are working. In this case we can't do this, so we're going to cut off our plug and we're going to hook it into what we have here. So your steps will be the same, so just get our main plug in here. All you'll probably need is the main plug and the FM AM antenna plug. I've put the pre-outs into because this one is running an aftermarket sound system, and I had to do sort the wires out. But if yours was a factory unit, you won't have to worry about that. All we're doing here is just the power on test, basically just to check that we have power. So you can see input power, it's working, sound works, and that the steering wheel controls work. It's about all these cars sort of have going on, so we just want to check those few things. It takes a while to boot up the first time because it is coming from the being depowered. So you can see I'm pushing the steering wheel controls now, so we've got our volume. You can see it's telling us the car doors are open, so we're hooked to the car's CAN system. That's good. Now we have no sound coming through, so that is a little bit of an issue. Now that might be something to do with the fact that it was an aftermarket unit, and so that was sort of turned off by default.
Mate, I mean, certainly just on our website.
So I can hear the sound working now. Your one's going to be a bit different, but we mainly wanted to check sound was working and our steering wheel controls. This is a setting that you won't have to do. This is just something I'm going into. So Steering wheel controls work. We got like sound. My setup was a bit different from yours because like, we had this like setup for it to be the factory sound system, which majority of people have. If you don't, well, this example video I just showed you shows how to do it if you had an aftermarket unit already in. Now you can see if I put the car in reverse, I will also get in the trigger for reverse. So that's like something the old unit wasn't getting, so our like canvas must be better in how it talks to the car. And that is all basically it. So that proves it's like working and we're all happy. We got the sound and stuff. So now I'll probably go and put the reverse camera in, and then we'll go and put all the wires in. So to install the reverse camera, basically going to work like backwards. Ideally we want to probably have the camera, we're going to screw it in here. You can choose where you screw it into, but obviously we have to get a wire behind here. So in your kit you have a tool like this, and you just put them under here and you see it'll pop up and a lever back and they come off like that. So that's how you like pop off like those, and you can see there's a few around. Just take off all the ones you don't need to so you can get this off and we can get a wire in behind. So we've taken the whole boot thing off here, you can see. Just have to, the tool thing has like a strap in here, you like just twist to pull out, and there's 2 screws here as well that are holding in that tool flap. And on the back here you've got sort of 4 Torx head that have been holding in this, and just get your trim tool at either end and a lever up these 2 pops. Then the number plate actually to come off because it was under here, and that pops off this, and you can see we've only got one little spot here that's possible to run a wire through. So that's where our reverse wire is going to have to run through there, and we'll have to screw it into here somewhere. So reverse camera tucked through there, and the cable's obviously going through that hole that's in here, coming out here. Now I've just like temporarily hooked this up to see how we go. We've tapped into a reverse light power here, which in this case was on this brown as a ground and a blue and like yellow. So we've tapped into that with our SPR connector, which we include. I'm not sure on this model, a lot of Europeans like sometimes you have to add a little filter box in here, because otherwise a camera will work when the car's just on the ACC, but when the car's like running, the voltage drops too low, camera like won't work. And we have a little like box that like fixes this. That like box would just sit on this end here with a positive and like a negative, and then a positive and negative going into here. So we'll include that in the kit. I'm just about to test it, see if it does work. So that's it. Just like run the cable around the outside of the car. Now in the back of the head unit here, you've got that little plug there. You put in with the purple wire that comes into here. We don't need the trigger wire because we are picking up the trigger from the CAN bus box. Turn your car on to full ACC lights. Hopefully you can see the screen down there, and then just put the car into reverse. So I'll lift this up. Oh, and that'll come unplugged, son of my bum. So we just do it like this because obviously you don't want to get too serious until you are making sure things are working. So that is working okay there. The other test to do is just test it when you like start the car, and put it in reverse again. And still working, so that's cool. Now sometimes because of the sensitivity of the CAN bus it wouldn't work, so that's okay. So that is basically all our camera hooked up there now. So we'll go through and like tidy it all up, and now we just do that for like the camera to start with, so you're like sure everything's working, and then you can go and put the cable in tidily. Alright, so the reverse camera's done. We've got our cable coming in here somewhere. Nope, it's not it, that's not it. Both of these are actually old. One of these was an external sort of microphone from the old unit. We'll take that out. The other cable here is a GPS from the old unit. Again, we can't use this one because our plug's different, and again, if it's an aftermarket unit, technology's changed a lot. This was probably put on a few years ago. It probably needs a new one, so we'll pull that out. So that's fine. Now, get rid of that over here. Now I've got after all that, our reverse camera has come through. We've tested it works. I've run them behind the head unit. So now we're going to go through and put all the cables we need in, and then once all those are in, we'll sort of tape everything up, tidy it up, and the head unit can basically go back in. Start with our 2 USBs and our external mic. Again, external mic, I'll show you what you do here, but you can basically test it with the car running before you put everything in. You can make a couple of calls, see if there's any benefit or like not. If our kit has one, if our kit doesn't have one, then don't worry about it. Now this here, we want to run these through to the glove box. So European cars are always pretty sealed up in these guards, so you just got to find somewhere we can I tuck it back in. I just need to shift everything. So there it is here, and our 2 USBs are in here. Now there's only like one little gap you can actually fit it in. It's at the sort of back of the glove box in here. If you look through here, you can just use your hand, you can like see it, and you can get it out. So a SIM card, I'll do the like same thing for. I'll like run that into the glove box, and our third USB cable, this pink one, I'll do the like same thing for. I'll run it through there as well. All of those are in the glove box now. Got my 3 wires here. Now we've got our 4G antenna. Again, this here, just stick it up under the dash somewhere. You'll be able to find a little spot for it if you float your fingers around. It's got a stick pad on here. Undo that. We'll tape it back up later. Peel that off. Stick it somewhere. It's a bit. It just needs to sort of have a view of the dash. Probably ideal if it wasn't under a big piece of steel. But you got to think of your sort of phone. Like the reception on that would still work even if it was on the floor of the car. So that is what the 4G antenna will do. So peel the stick pad off here and just find a good spot to stick it on. Just remember, these aircon vents are going to be going through here, so if you have to avoid anything, just avoid it. And there's a good little spot if you push it back past there, and it can stick to some of the flat on the dash up here. So that's where we're going to stick that. And then you got your GPS antenna, same thing, just needs a clear view of the sky through the windscreen with no steel above it. Normally you can stick it up like that underneath the dash somewhere, so in this case, I'm just seeing sometimes it can go up on top of the air vents, okay, but it's a bit tight in here. Oh, there's a good little spot on like this side. I fit your hand in there, you'll feel there's a flat little bit underneath the dash. So stick it up under like that, put that one. I like when there's a good spot to put these things, it's always handy. So just obviously when you give it a push down, just like any sort of 3M thing you stick on, just give it a push for 20 seconds or so it all gets a good hold on it. That's that done. So that's all our cables put in. So now what I'll do now is I'll tape all these up a bit and I'll show you what it looks like at the end, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so again, you get as serious or not serious as you want with your taping. The main thing we just want is everything to be able to fit back into here, okay? So that's all we're after. Now the head unit should slot in so it fits up the top there, so you should have enough room. So I normally try and work from one side, then work your way back. Kind of helps you not forget things. So obviously we got our main plug, pop that in. Then get all your extra plugs you had here, all your auxiliary plugs. So that's our pre-out, so you might be not using that, but reverse camera, majority of you are going to be using that. Then we've got our 3 cables we ran from the glove box, so don't forget about those. Now here's all into here like that, that's into there. Then you got to remember we've got our GPS, 4G and our FM AM antenna, so we'll plug all those in. Now before you go and put it all in, I normally suggest you do a call test, see if you want to run an external antenna or not. But basically, if you have it all hooked up, as you kind of we're going to have it, sit it in here, it gets harder to push it back in. So I just power up the car now. Always do a test before you go and put everything back together, because guarantee you forget something, or something will happen. So we'll do this. Now I'm going to hook our phone to it and just do a test call. You can do the same thing, but obviously go to the radio. We got sound working, steering wheel controls working. The only other thing really to check is our put in reverse. Alright, so we've got our reverse camera working. Now I'm just going to quickly connect my phone to it. On your phone sometimes, especially on Apple phones, just turn your Bluetooth off and back on, and it'll probably pop up. There it is there, iPhone 13 Pro Max. I've got a screen protector on here, but you'll get something on your phone asking for you to enter in a PIN code. It's pair, just allow, and then it's going to take a few seconds, and then it's going to ask you to allow our CarPlay. So CarPlay's happening now. Hey Siri, call Harley work. So now I'm just going to do a test call on it. So we decided to run the external mic on this one. We tested it. It sounded better with the external mic, mainly because the aircon was a bit like noisy, and so the noise cancellation did cancel it out. Again, do a test. I've run it. If there's like one in the kit, you can use it. If not, we do sell them. The reason why they're in and out of the kits is it's like not as simple as just plugging an external mic and it being better. But anyway, I tucked it in here and here. On the way down here, up into here, this is the same place we took the reverse a camera. We undid a couple screws here just so we could get off that, and we took out this little storage box that just had a couple screws on it. And then we pop this down, and then it comes out and everything behind here. So all good and happy. Now we'll try and slot everything back into the head unit. Now as you put them back in, that is always a trick, is you want to have enough room to get the stuff going back all right. That's why if you do have it, finding it's tight to push in, always check behind it, because the issue is probably that it's just a bit tight behind it and we have to do a adjust. So it's all pushed back in there. Grab those screws we took out at the start. Just remember that the aircon vents went in first, so they were sitting, they were sitting on top. So you kind of sort of got to shimmy them in at the same time. Like that, and then that pushes in. The ones without the washers were the ones from down the bottom, if you remember. So those in, and then you had your one here and your two in the top here that you can get to from the angle. So those are the ones with like the washers on, and that will be all that. Now you find when you go to put this in, it's a little bit challenging. These screws in here you can't actually put back in, because so what has to happen is you have to have the screen and then put the like trim on, so you get the trim to tuck into its locking points in the screen, and then like the aircon vent goes on. So all of that will be together and kind of sitting out, then you push it all in together. Now it's a bit hard, that's just the only way it's going to fit with this like fascia in there. So after everything comes on, it's still pretty tight in here, but I guess what we can suggest you do is, if the clips on the car are a bit old, is you could just put run a little bit of double-sided tape behind here, so it just holds this bottom bit in. But that's what has to happen. So screen, trim, you get the trim on, and then the aircon vent tabs, because you have to sort of remember that so radio tabs are actually behind the aircon vent ones down here. When we put it back in, and it all pushes in together. And now I'll put this bit of trim back on as well. So back to the reverse camera, it came underneath here. We popped off like some of this. I ran it under here. We just tucked it up on the edge. We didn't take any of this off. We tucked it up under here. We tucked it down the side of the seat, and we lifted out of that seat forward, and we popped it behind here. You can see it's coming out up here, so we'll tuck this down behind this carpet here. Again, you can do it however you want to do it, but once it's all tucked behind here, and then we popped it up into this grommet here, and it came out here. So ideally you'd pass it through here. It's pretty hard with the RCA to get it through here, so we'll probably put it next to it and tape it to this with like a small slit in there, and then you can actually put a bit of silicone on there if you really want. But if you put it on the bottom edge, you're going to be pretty safe. Up through here, we just actually sort of dropped it down and like it popped out, but otherwise you coat hanger in here or something. Obviously we took the power off here like before, along here, and then you can see we are mounted under there like so. So all looking pretty good. That's reverse camera. Put all this back in reverse. So there we go, all done. Not too hard of an install, but it's going to take about like 4 hours. It does take a while, especially around the reverse camera, but you can see it's all in. Steering controls are working. We've got reverse camera there. Everything's all pretty good. We've tucked all our extra cables up here in the glove box. I think that was a little bit hard was when you put all the trim back in, just like I said, the head unit, the trim, and then the aircon vents, and push it all back. Some double-sided tape could be pretty good around here if you want to just get yourself extra sort of firmness, but that's pretty good. It's not going anywhere. So that is all done there and all looking pretty good.